Okay, we got another Bible contradiction accusation. This is from an atheist who says that the Bible contradicts itself about who carried Jesus' cross. In John 19:17, it says, "And he, bearing his cross, went out to a place called the place of a skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha." Whereas in Luke 23 and verse 26, it says, "Now as they led him away, they laid hold of a certain man, Simon a Cyrenian, who was coming from the country, and on him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus." So in these two accounts, which is it? Did Simon of Cyrene carry the cross the whole way in order to, of course, do the death march aspect of a Roman crucifixion? Or according to John's gospel, did Jesus carry the cross the whole way between A and B when he was ultimately crucified? Well, as I'm sure anyone who has an ounce of imagination and maybe has seen The Passion of the Christ, if even Mel Gibson can figure this out, hopefully they can too. We're talking about something that isn't a contradiction. We're talking about an addition of detail. John's gospel, of course, including further information that may or may not reference Simon of Cyrene. Oh, that's interesting. Let's look that up. But if on the other hand, we ask the question, okay, is this negating itself? And that's what a contradiction means. A contradiction is when you say that two things in the same way and in the same sense are both true and at the same time canceling each other out. That would be a contradiction. So notice I have to explain to the atheist that asked this question, where in the text does it say that Jesus carried the cross the whole way? It mentions that they put the cross on him and he bore it, but we also have information from Luke that notes that he was compelled to carry the cross for Jesus. Did that mean that he was first approached before Jesus even touched the cross? Or was this something introduced later on? You have to assume that in order to force the negation, but that's simply not in the text. So if you hear an atheist use this kind of contradiction, quote unquote, against you, remind them what a contradiction is and how that doesn't fit the definition. If it says Jesus carried the cross the whole way, that would be an issue if it mentions someone else. But if it just mentions he carried his cross, then we can have room to say maybe someone else helped him when he collapsed from blood loss and exhaustion, which was fairly common in Roman historical crucifixions. We recommend, for looking up what that does to the human body, William D. Edwards on the physical death of Jesus of Nazareth. It wasn't a pretty process. Julius Caesar's Gallic War says most people died from the scourging alone. So when it comes down to this, we know what a contradiction is, look up the text, and maybe just have a bit of imagination in pointing that out to them. It isn't impossible for Simon of Cyrene to have been compelled later to help Jesus when he couldn't walk anymore. But even if they insist that's not in the text, then clearly they're not sincere, and you can just move on. But emphasize that and know what a contradiction is, and you won't have to be intimidated by these kind of accusations.